Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This video features Classic X-Men number 7, and this one is cover dated March 1986. So this is the Arthur Adams cover for the issue for the main story, a reprint of X-Men or Uncanny X-Men number 99. Arthur Adams inked by P. Craig Russell. But what I'm interested in is the B story, or the backup story, which is the 12-page Chris Claremont and John Bolton story. And it's one that centers on the Hellfire Club. And here on this back cover, you've got a rather striking, eye-catching figure of Emma Frost, of course, and signed by Bolton there, so pen and ink work by him. But Emma Frost isn't actually the protagonist of the backup story. She does feature in it, but the protagonist is Sebastian Shaw, and there's a very interesting other character who makes her one and only appearance in this backup story, and we'll get into it. I do like the composition here of this image. I like the detail of the antique table that Emma's leaning on, the drapery there of her cloak falling off the table. It is good stuff. So on the inside cover, you get the credits for each issue. And over here, we have our credits where Chris Claremont is writer, John Bolton artist, and the letterer for the backup story is Tom Orzechowski, and the colorist Glynis Oliver. So there's an inside little cover image there of Storm in a spacesuit. That's the splash page from Uncanny X-Men 99. And then once we get past all of that, we have a few inserted new pages there. We've got the end full page image of the old X-Men versus the new X-Men, but this is what we're interested in here, the backup story. So the title of the story is Out with the Old, and we've got a full page image here, and we have an interesting third person narration. Christmas is past, the old year nearly done, and in celebration, New York's infamous Hellfire Club presents its annual gala. There is no more exclusive establishment in the world, and yet no more egalitarian. Oh, and then the narration continues, anyone can belong, provided he or she is wealthy beyond almost all measure. Within these walls, these most powerful of people are free from the cloying constraints of society and custom. In an atmosphere that harkens to an earlier, rougher age, there are few rules and few limitations. All things are possible, and virtually nothing is forbidden. So we would say that that is an amoral setup here. And of course, we have in the foreground these couples waltzing. We've got a king and queen here. We assume that this is a white king of the Hellfire Club. And then always incongruously, the women serving in basically bondage gear. So it is like the Hellfire Club in one sense is a weird sex club, and in other senses it's about the pursuit of power, and maybe sex and power do go together in certain ways. So let's get into the story, and here's this character that we haven't seen before here, and she is a it'll turn out that she is Catalan, or she's from Catalonia, and she says to Sebastian, "You're a fool to trust the White King, Sebastian," and he responds, "Edward Bookman is the club's president, my lady, my patron and my friend." So this is the Bookman in question, and she says to him, she warns him, "False friend, lying patron. He is human, we are mutants. Can you not see how much he hates us?" And Sebastian Shaw tells her, "Peace, lords, we'll discuss this later." And Bookman comes over, "Have you met my White Queen, Sebastian Paris Seville?" And so Sebastian courteously says to her, "Your servant, ma'am. May I in turn present Lords Chantel?" So Bookman here, charmed, "You'll make a fitting Black King, old top. You really do look the part." So is Edward Bookman supposed to be British? Or is he an American that had an education in England? His phraseology is rather British in many ways, upper class British. So Sebastian Shaw responds, "Kind words, Edward, but no amount of finery or education will smooth my rough edges. And remember the third person narration from the first page about the rougher earlier times. Well, we'll see how that plays out thematically in this little story, this 12-page story. You were born to wealth, says Sebastian. I forged mine from nothing. And Bookman responds, the American dream, old top. Horatio Alger would be proud. So Sebastian Shaw, pulling himself up by the bootstraps, a self-made man. But Bookman, it's implied, coming from old money. By the way, says Bookman, the latest reports from Stephen Lang are everything we hoped and more. So this story is fitting into the action in the main story, the reprint of Uncanny X-Men 99. And Bookman continues, Project Armageddon looks to be a complete success. It wouldn't have been possible without you, Sebastian. Rest assured the Council of the Chosen will not let such stalwart service go unrewarded. Now, if you'll excuse me, I promised my Queen a waltz. So off he goes. So we're getting insight into the Hellfire Club when Sebastian Shaw was coming up, having attained the position of Black King, but having a rival in the form of this Edward Bookman, the White King, and Sebastian Shaw's Black Queen is worried and skeptical. The charm of a stalking cobra, she says to Sebastian, with the fangs to match. The X-Men have always defended mutant kind, yet Bookman wishes them dead. And Shaw is skeptical. He's dismissive. He says, rubbish. Our aim is to isolate the genetic X factor that creates enhanced power beings like ourselves, so we can properly exploit it in the marketplace. The X-Men are simply the most suitable guinea pigs. So Lord says, hold fast to your fantasy, querido. And then he says, enough. Tessa, Edward Bookman's behavior, observation and analysis, please. So this is Claremont retrospectively characterizing Tessa as an analyst, a data analyst, and a strategist. So she says the White King's solicitude may indicate a genuine regard, Shaw. Alternately, it is classic military strategy to disarm one's foe by pretending friendship prior to an attack. So Shaw isn't happy about hearing any of that. That isn't helpful, woman, he says. And she replies, she's not meek and subservient. She replies, it is the best I can do without additional data. So Shaw's frustrated. He walks out onto the balcony. You're both determined to drive me mad, he exclaims. Much of what I am I owe to Ned. And yet, he thinks to himself. And then he calls out in his mind, Emma, can you hear my thoughts? And then we get an apparition or a vision of Emma, psionically projected. We have to infer, always Sebastian, she says, and then adds, even from the farthest reaches of the world. So he is annoyed. Hades, are all my women determined to draw their pints of blood tonight? And he thinks and communicates to Emma, Lourdes is worried. So now it's time to comment on the art. Great art across these 2 pages. Interesting costume, period costume for Lourdes that Bolton has given her. Also an interesting effect here for the semi-transparent psionic projection of Emma here out on the balcony. It's all very well done. And of course, everything done with a brush by Bolton. Really, really good stuff. Let's continue. And the scene shifts to where Emma is physically, 100 miles eastward, beyond East Hampton. So we've got an establishing shot of this beachfront property in the Hamptons. That is her nature, says Emma. But in this instance, she may have good reason to be worried. So Sebastian asks her, how's our guest, Emma? And who is it that they have there? And from the main story, they have Colonel Rossi. And Emma communicates that he's alive. With proper care, he'll recover. I've telepathically scanned his memories. His aircraft was attacked by Sentinels while en route to Washington after Rossi's meeting with Stephen Lang. And she continues, Project Armageddon was originally proposed as a means of enhancing the Hellfire Club's wealth and power. The rationale being that whosoever controls mutant kind will also control the world. But Rossi discovered its true purpose to bring about the total eradication of Homo sapiens superior. And the men responsible are Stephen Lang and Edward Bookman. So here it is. So Lourdes had every reason to be worried, and Shaw is shocked and angry. "Ned," he exclaims, "you lied to me." And there he is on the balcony, and he smashes the balcony with his fist, the balustrade. "I trusted you, believed in you," he says aloud. "I let my need for respect and acceptance." I like this characterization from Claremont, the fact that Shaw wasn't born to money, that he worked his way up to his position of status and power. And also being a mutant, of course, there's an element by which he would feel himself an outsider. And so he had that emotional need, my need for respect and acceptance, and he was manipulated by it. My instinct, Cloud's instinct for survival. How he must have laughed as he slams his fist through the concrete. And then another full-page image. So we've two of them in the 12-page story. And we have the Sentinel is breaking into the beach house. Contact established, it declares, with mutant target codefaxed Emma Frost. So it's unconcerned about her telepathic power. It's not vulnerable to it. And Emma turns a Sentinel, she exclaims, and she calls out to Shaw psionically. And Bolton signs that particular one. I wonder, did he sell it on soon afterwards? The original art, that is. Another great couple of pages here. So Shaw, of course, he's miles away, 100 miles away from what's happening. What can he do? So he turns to Lourdes. She's a mutant too. He says, "One of Lang's robots is attacking my beach house. Emma and Harry Leyland haven't a prayer against it on their own." So Harry Leyland is there too. And he addresses Lourdes specifically and says, "Teleport us there at once." So she is a mutant and this is her power, but she is concerned. "Sebastian, I've never carried so many people such a distance. I don't know if I can." And that reminds us of Nightcrawler and how over time he was able to develop his own power to, number one, carry people, teleport them, and then over greater distances. "I won't be refused, woman," he says as he grabs her by the throat. "Do as you're told." So Sebastian Shaw is rough, all right. In the blink of an eye, they travel from Manhattan to their destination. And then we have the shadow of the Sentinel. That's a great panel there. Great kind of low angle on the Sentinel with most of its face and body in silhouette. So Leyland is very happy in this instance to see Shaw, and he says, "Thank heaven, Emma's in the next room. I don't know what happened to her." So Shaw gives orders that Tessa should tend to Lord, and we can see that she's fainted there. "I'll deal with this metal monster," he says. "An admirable ambition, dear boy," says Harry. "Better you than me." And this is great from Claremont as well. Claremont gives Sebastian a thought about Harry Leyland. "Brilliant lawyer you may be, Harry, but considerably less than a man. So not brave at all in respect of the Sentinel." So a great image here of the Sentinel releasing nerve gas. And this is typical of Claremont. He thinks procedurally in respect of the situation. What would someone like Shaw do? So we get it in Shaw's thoughts. Got to flatten the remaining walls so the wind can blow the gas away before it can do us any harm. A good punch. The harder I strike anything, the stronger I get. A few more like it and I'll be, he was about to say unbeatable. But he's caught by this metal coil. This is really well drawn here where Lourdes is running towards him. Tessa's trying to hold her back, telling her she's too weak. "I won't let him be harmed," she says. And she teleports, but she can't jaunt far because of the exertion of the 100-mile teleporting of three of them. So it's all logical. It all makes sense what's about to happen next. And of course you can guess what's coming next probably, because we don't know this character from the established continuity. So fortunately, she thinks she doesn't need to. She's wrong. And there we see this arrow, the spearhead fly out and go right through her back and out her stomach. And Leyland is aghast. And finally, he uses his power on the Sentinel. He exclaims aloud, "Feel my power, murderer." But he thinks to himself, and again, this is great from Claremont, "I'm the murderer," he thinks. "If only I'd acted sooner with a little courage." So he controls mass, and the Sentinel sinks into the ground, where Sebastian Shaw is able to punch at it. Emma attends to Harry Leyland. I like this from Claremont, the way he characterizes villains. They're human beings. They have their emotional attachments, their loyalties. They're not two-dimensional, wicked characters. And in the case of Harry Leyland, he's extremely corpulent, as you can see. He's got a heart condition. And he says here, quietly, "Sentinel, resisting so much strain, my heart pounding so hard, hurts, I won't give up." So he says he's all right, and glad to see that Emma is too. So Shaw here punching away, dismantling the Sentinel in rage. He says to it at the end, "As good as you are, you're only a machine." This is really great work from Bolton. Sebastian Shaw is hitting right and left. It's really well done, and we're zooming in as well over the course of those four vertical panels. It's really well done storytelling. And there he is, victorious. He's destroyed the Sentinel. And this man, he exclaims, "will always prove you're better." That's a great image there. Really well done. The rendering of the rain there, the little puddles from the raindrops. And then Shaw remembers, "Lords, I only wish the victory were worth the price," he says. And he asks for forgiveness for bringing you to this. And then she says, "Forgive Sebastian anything, always." So she loves him. This is poignant stuff. And this is very good from Claremont. We've only had this character, Lords, for a few pages. And Claremont will pack so much character into her here on this page, in her death scene, and in particular what she says in this panel. And then we have the observing Tessa, Harry Leyland, and Emma. And Tessa says how much she loves him, how little he realized it. Leyland wondering, "Isn't there anything we can do?" And Emma here mercifully saying, "My side powers are neutralizing her neural receptors, so she is in no pain beyond that. There's nothing she can do." And this is it. This is like the characterization that Claremont will pack into a few words as this character we've never seen before dies. "I wish," she says, "I could see the sun again, stroll Las Ramblas, my home in Barcelona, pray a last time in the Sagrada Familia." And then she calls out, "Oh, Sebastian, why does Bookman hate us, as mutants?" So she dies, and he kisses her, and there's no dialogue, no caption there for this silent panel, well chosen by Claremont, letting the art speak for itself. And then she's dead, and Sebastian stands up, and he gives her her answer after her death: "Fear of what we are and what we represent. Now I'll give him cause." So it's midnight, the Hellfire Club, winter, you can see, the Council of the Chosen, minus, of course, Sebastian Shaw, gathers for a special meeting, and Bookman is at the head of it. "Welcome all," he says. "I have the very best of news. Even as I speak, the mutant presence among us and the threat it represents to humanity as much as the Hellfire Club." And he grabs the sidearm of one of the Hellfire Club security men and shoots him in the gut, and shoots the other one, and shoots all of the Council of the Chosen as well. What is going on? What's this Bookman up to? Well, we're on to the last page. So we've got a fair few panels here to wrap up after Bolton expending 2 whole pages on full page images. So that's the cost here. This requirement for how many panels do we have here? 8 on the final page. So he shoots his White Queen, and then he comes to himself. This is insane. What have I done? What am I doing? So Sebastian Shaw is there, Emma Frost. He's under Emma's psionic control. Sebastian takes the gun from out of his hand, grabs him by the throat, lifts him up. "I wasn't your enemy, Ned, until you made me one." And Ned is begging, and Shaw simply says, "The only thing a man truly possesses is his word." you gave me yours. I thought that meant something. And this is a horrifying image. So it's a Glynis Oliver trope. I always point it out. Red in the background for a moment of violence. But you can see he's been choked. His tongue is sticking out there. His eyes popped. He's got his hands around Sebastian's wrist. And Sebastian Shaw breaks his neck. Snap. And he breaks the gun there as well. In his other hand, and throws it to the ground. So well done. And he declares the king is dead and his council with him. Lourdes was worth a lot of them and more. In their place and her memory shall rise the Lords Cardinal. So this is Claremont moving things into more familiar territory. The origin of the Lords Cardinal, the Hellfire Club's inner circle. No longer will mutants be victims but rulers. First of the Hellfire Club and then the world, he declares. So what a great 12-page story. Really excellent work from Claremont and Bolton. And a character study not of Emma Frost, but rather of Sebastian Shaw. But of course, Sebastian Shaw on the back cover wouldn't be as arresting and eye-catching as Emma Frost. But for me, the most interesting achievement in this short story of 12 pages is this character of Lourdes Chantal, and how Claremont makes her a rounded character in so few pages, with the implication of her life history, her values, her beliefs, her love for Sebastian Shaw, and how his creation of the Lords Cardinal is triggered by the loss of her life, being killed by one of those Sentinels, an agent of Project Armageddon, and then turning the Hellfire Club into a vehicle for mutants ruling the world. Really, really great stuff by Claremont and Bolton. Let me know your thoughts on this one in the comments section. If you enjoyed my review and commentary, please like and share the video. It really does help the channel. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content like this.